Good day, I am Ernest Burgess, the pioneer who transformed cities into living textbooks and forged urban sociology into a rigorous science. As co-architect of the Chicago School of Sociology, I revealed how streets, data, and human lives intertwine in the urban tapestry. Welcome to Socio-Exploration. In this reflection on my life's journey, I'll share how a boy from rural Canada became sociology's first cartographer of the modern city. I entered this world on May 16, 1886, in Tilbury, Ontario, a small farming community where the rhythms of rural life imprinted upon me early values of order and observation. My childhood coincided with North America's industrial explosion, as railroads and factories devoured pastoral landscapes. My intellectual voyage began at Kingfisher College in Oklahoma, where I earned my bachelor's degree in 1908. There, I discovered sociology's power to dissect social change. But it was at the University of Chicago where my destiny took shape. Under Albion Small, a visionary who insisted society could be measured, not just philosophized, I completed my PhD in 1913. My dissertation fused statistical rigor with social inquiry, marking sociology's first quantitative doctorate and defining my life's methodology. Map the invisible, quantify the human. In 1916, I joined Chicago's sociology faculty, igniting a partnership that would reshape the discipline. Robert E. Park, with his journalist's eye for street-level narratives, became my closest collaborator. While he chronicled the soul of the city, I became its first cartographer. Armed with census tracts, surveys, and ink-stained maps, I trained students to document Chicago's neighborhoods, tracking poverty zones, immigrant enclaves, and family networks. We transformed the city into a living laboratory, proving urban life followed discernible laws. For decades, I balanced dual roles, scholar and social physician. By day, I lectured on human ecology. By night, I walked tenement districts, interviewing factory workers and mapping the spread of urban decay. My work expanded beyond city zones. I delved into family stability, developing predictive models for marital success, and later sounded alarms about industrial society's abandonment of the elderly. When I retired in 1952, urban sociology stood as a respected science, bearing the fingerprints of my empirical revolution. On December 27, 1966, I passed away quietly, leaving no grand monument, only a simple credo etched in my students' work. To study a city is to dissect the human condition. My ashes scattered without ceremony, but my legacy endures wherever sociologists map inequality, measure community bonds, or seek patterns in the urban symphony. My life's work sought to decode the hidden order within urban chaos. Where others saw random human behavior, I saw systems governed by social laws. Here, I unfold the theories that defined my legacy, each born from decades of mapping cities, surveying families, and measuring the invisible forces that bind societies. First, concentric zone theory. The blueprint of urban life. Cities grow not by accident, but through predictable spatial patterns driven by competition and adaptation. After years of mapping Chicago's neighborhoods, census tracts, and land values, I identified 5 concentric rings shaping urban expansion. Zone 1, the Central Business District. The city's economic core, banks, skyscrapers, railways, and department stores. Land here is fiercely contested, pushing residential uses outward. This is capitalism's command center. Zone 2, the zone of transition. A volatile belt encircling the core. Factories invade aging housing, immigrant groups cluster in crowded tenements, vice districts flourish amid poverty. Here, social disorganization thrives as institutions collapse and populations churn. This ring is the city's pressure valve and its moral battleground. Zone 3, working-class home stability emerges. Skilled laborers, factory workers, tradespeople occupy modest but well-maintained homes. Churches, schools, and ethnic clubs anchor communities against industrial blight. This is the respectable buffer against chaos. Zone 4, middle-class residences. Professionals and white-collar workers seek space and tranquility. Single-family homes, parks, and shopping corridors dominate. Commuting to Zone 1 begins here. Aspiration solidifies into social identity. Zone 5, commuter suburbs. The urban frontier, green lawns, quiet streets, and isolation. Residents trade daily travel for perceived safety and status. This is the endpoint of the ecological ladder. This model exposed how industrial capitalism manufactures spatial inequality. The marginalized remain trapped in Zone 2, while wealth flees outward, a structural injustice urban planners still grapple with. 2. Predicting marital success. When I began studying marriage, most people thought of it in romantic or moral terms, but I was interested in marriage as a social institution, one that could be studied systematically. I asked a simple question: are there social factors that predict whether a marriage will last? To answer this, I created the Marital Success Prediction Scale in 1939. This wasn't about fate or chemistry. It was about identifying the conditions that support marital stability. Through surveys and longitudinal research, I found several consistent predictors. First, economic security. Financial stress often strains relationships, while stable income tends to support long-term bonds. Second, shared values and backgrounds. When partners shared religious beliefs, cultural norms, or life goals, they had fewer conflicts and greater understanding. Third, and perhaps most importantly, social environment. Couples embedded in strong communities, through churches, family, or neighborhoods, had more external support and social reinforcement. These findings laid the foundation for what we now call family sociology. My work helped shift the discussion around marriage from sentiment alone to structure and support. Love is real, of course, but it thrives best when surrounded by the right conditions. 3. Social disorganization and crime. Much of my work focused on the city, not just as a place but as a process of social change. I was especially concerned with neighborhoods in transition. What happens when people move in and out quickly? When schools and churches decline, and neighbors no longer know one another? I saw these changes not as random, but as patterns of disorganization. From these observations, I helped develop the social disorganization theory of crime. The core idea was this: crime does not emerge from bad individuals, but from broken environments. In stable communities, social norms are clear. People intervene when things go wrong. But in disorganized neighborhoods, that control breaks down. Here's what I observed. As industrialization expanded, factories replaced familiar institutions like churches, schools, and local businesses that once formed the heart of the community. Residential turnover increased. People came and went, chasing jobs or fleeing poverty. Trust eroded. No one stayed long enough to feel responsible. As a result, informal social control weakened. No one watched the children playing. No one challenged bad behavior. In that vacuum, crime rose. This theory gave a structural explanation for crime and deviance, rather than blaming individuals. It influenced everything from urban policy to criminology, showing that to fix crime, we must first fix the communities people live in. 4. Human ecology. I always believed that if you want to understand the city, you must look at it like an ecologist studies nature. I helped develop what we called human ecology, a framework for analyzing urban life through patterns of competition, invasion, and succession, concepts borrowed from biology. We looked at how cities grow and evolve, not chaotically, but in recognizable zones. We saw the central business district was the economic heart, busy, impersonal, and constantly under pressure. Surrounding it were zones of transition, where immigrants and the working class often settled, areas marked by instability but also cultural richness. Further out were zones of residential stability, with middle-class families and cleaner environments. We studied how one group would often invade a neighborhood, say, newly arrived immigrants, and succeed a prior group that had moved up and out. Factories competed with homes for space, and people competed with one another for opportunity. Just like organisms in an ecosystem, people in cities adapt to their environments, or fail to. Cities were not just physical spaces, they were dynamic, layered, and evolving. Human ecology gave us a powerful tool to trace the forces shaping urban life, and to anticipate the conflicts and transformations that would inevitably follow. 5. The aging society. As my work evolved, I became more and more concerned with those who are often left behind, particularly the elderly. In earlier, agrarian societies, the elderly held respected roles. They lived in extended families, passed on wisdom, and remained central to social life. But in the modern industrial world, I saw that older people were becoming increasingly isolated. Children moved away for jobs, extended families broke apart. Communities that once embraced the elderly were now fragmented, and the result was loneliness, neglect, and even poverty. We were building modern cities and economies, but we weren't building them for everyone. The elderly, especially those without wealth or support, became invisible. I argued that this was not just a personal tragedy. It was a social failure. We needed to rethink housing, healthcare, social security, and family responsibility to account for an aging population. To me, how a society treats its elderly is a mirror of its values. If we ignore those who built our communities, we erode the very foundation we stand on. My hope was that by studying these patterns, we could push for reforms that would ensure dignity in aging, not abandonment. My words blended theory with hard evidence. I wasn't content with abstract thought alone. I believed sociology must be grounded in observation, in method, in life as it's actually lived. These publications reflect my lifelong mission: to make the social world knowable and improvable. 1. The City, 1925. In The City, co-authored with Robert Park and R.D. Mackenzie, we argued something radical for our time. Cities aren't chaotic, they are structured, and their growth follows discernible patterns. Drawing from ecology, we introduced the concentric zone model, showing how urban areas expand outward in rings, from the bustling central business district to the quieter commuter zones. Each ring tells a story of migration, adaptation, and social hierarchy. We walked the streets of Chicago, mapped its neighborhoods, and treated it like a living laboratory. With this book, we helped transform urban sociology from speculation into science. 2. Predicting Success or Failure in Marriage, 1939. Marriage has always been seen as sacred, emotional, beyond analysis. But with Leonard Cottrell, I asked, what if we could measure the social conditions that make a marriage more likely to succeed? In Predicting Success or Failure in Marriage, we introduced one of the first empirical frameworks for understanding marital stability. We examined thousands of couples, looking at factors like income, shared background, religious alignment, and social ties. What we found was clear. Marital success is not random, it's structured. This study helped establish family sociology as a scientific field, and it still influences marriage research today. 3. Introduction to the Science of Sociology, 1921. When Park and I published Introduction to the Science of Sociology, we intended it as a toolkit, a way to bring sociological method and fieldwork into the hands of students. Before this, there was no standard guide. Sociologists borrowed from philosophy, journalism, anthropology, but they had no unified framework. Our textbook combined theory, ethnography, observation, and reflection, with vivid examples drawn from city life, crime, migration, and media. We organized it like a field manual, because sociology, we believed, belonged in the streets as much as in the classroom. Generations of students carried this book. Many called it sociology's first manual, and I'm proud of that. 4. Aging in Western Societies, 1960. As time went on, I became increasingly concerned with those who are often unseen, the elderly. In editing Aging in Western Societies, I brought together scholars, field data, and policy recommendations to highlight how modern life had left older adults behind. Industrialization, urban sprawl, and mobility had eroded the role of elders in family and community life. This book was a call to action, to rethink housing, retirement, and social services. I argued that society's obsessed with youth risk, forgetting their own memory, and that caring for the aging was both a moral and social imperative. The work was foundational to what we now call social gerontology. To me, sociology was storytelling with data. Maps revealed struggles. Statistics echoed human dreams. If my legacy endures, let it remind you, behind every number is a neighborhood, a family, a life. Like, subscribe, and click the bell icon for more sociological journeys. Thank you, and never stop exploring the human map.